So I want to take another question from our members, a guy named Maximilian, who wants advice as a young researcher on on how what kind of technical expertise he might need, or I would also say academic expertise, and what the motivation would be to contribute meaningfully to UAP research. And I think we are asking you that question in light of the fact that you've emphasized that very strange, very weird, very embarrassing, very absurd data is part of the spectrum of data.
Well, um, you know, he can look at the people who are doing this work now and see where they come from. None of us was trained at the university to work on UFOs. All of us, whether you're talking about Dr. Puthoff, Colm Keller, or Eric Davis, or others, we came to this out of other things we were doing. Now, in my case, I was a pretty good programmer and trained in astrophysics. So I had a job. Um, and I had a job at the University of Texas, and I had a job at Paris Observatory, and I had a job at Stanford. Um, and as part of that, I had access to computers, and I had access to people who could answer my questions about physics or about other things, and tell me where to go to find the information, and I would turn it into my interest in information science. And that's what I've done, but I've never been paid to do that. So my advice is get a good basic scientific education, find a place that you're passionate about, whether it's in medicine, in biology, in physics, or in any of the related areas. And then, um, you you have plenty of time. If you don't watch television, you have plenty of time to work on your own thing. Nobody's going to stop you. Then you don't need a security clearance, and you don't need to go to any of those places. You can just talk to people around you, and you'll find people who have had experiences, and you can begin to document them, and then you can begin to design your own, and you'll find other people like you, as we did, um, and you can build your own, your own research field. And these days, thanks to Saul and other groups like that, you can publish, which wasn't true, you know in in the old days. I can tell you, the Dr. Hynek, who was director of an observatory and head of a department of astronomy, uh, sent multiple case reports and case analyses to Science magazine and to other magazines where he could publish anything on astrophysics, but those things about UFOs, even though they were just as well or better documented, were never accepted. They were never published.
So, Jacques, following up on that, we continue to have a lot of great questions for our members, and I think this is a fantastic one because it tells us something about the limits of science, or science as it's usually practiced. Um, Someone, her name is Marianne, has asked a question about what the role of the artist is in understanding UAP, or the phenomenon. And I think that's a question that interests you as a writer, and someone who appreciates aesthetic culture.
Well, the artists are there. I mean, they are in Hollywood. They've conveyed um, the impression of the witnesses, through film and drawings and cartoons, some wonderful cartoons. about that have captured the what we were saying before. The contradictions, the absurdity of, in many of those cartoons, the aliens are landing, and they are stupefied at something humans are doing. You know that creates a moment of humor. Humor is very, very important. So um, artists have been there. They have not done as much as they could do to capture the, very often what the witness is describing to me is graphic. It's an impression of an object, so they will describe the object and they will describe the conditions around the object. But obviously, they are struggling with words. Were they describing colors that change all at the same time, with colors I've never seen before. Well, what's a color you've never seen before? So I think that is where, my ability to work with that discourse stops. This is where I would love to be there with an artist who can draw something and say, was it more like this or was it more like that? Ideally, somebody with a terminal where or a computer where they could do some special effects, with different flashes and different things, and trying to reconstruct. Of course, we're never going to do it exactly, but we could try to reconstruct the environmental conditions that were there. And I think that's the role of the artist, which would be really, really important.
Well, I can imagine too, Jacques, that your own work as someone who's written literature, namely science fiction, you might think that the artist is also a source of imagination for scientific hypotheses or for insight into UAP.
Well, the uh, in my one of my science fiction novels in French was called Subspace, and it had to do. It earned the Johnson Prize in France, and it was about a group of students, of science students. I was a science student at the time, so it was easy for me to relate to what happened. And they were seeing little lights going through the wall of different colors and different frequencies. And they tried to study the lights and realized that the lights were conveying a message. I didn't want to use discs and so on because I didn't want to be, in a UFO book. And and they follow what the lights are telling them, and they get into a space which is the title was Subspace. So it goes into a space that has a different topology from our space, not just another planet, not just another universe with a similar thing, but another topology of space itself. Uh, so the spacecraft that they build gets distorted and gets encrusted with all kinds of things. And there was one, I did work with one artist who did the cover for the book. The cover for the book is the best thing about the book. I can tell you that his name is Forrest, Forest, and he is well known for another one of his works, which is Barbarella. The movie about Barbarella that all young men at the time were very excited about. And so he was a designer behind Barbarella.
Wow, wow, that's an amazing connection, Jacques. So